Welcome everyone. Today we're diving into the vibrant world of solar energy usage in Canada, its many applications, challenges, and exciting innovations.
Yeah, it's amazing how solar power is lighting up so many different areas across the country.
Exactly. I mean, think about it. From large urban centers to remote communities and even farms, Canada is embracing solar energy with both practicality and a forward-thinking mindset.
Right. And what's really cool is how diverse the applications are. We're not just talking about a few solar panels here and there, but major installations on malls, businesses, and farms alike, correct?
Oh, absolutely. For example, supermarkets and shopping malls, places with serious energy bills, are now sporting these vast arrays. Oxford Properties, for instance, has solar panels on 1 million square feet of roof space at key locations like Yorkdale and Square One.
Wow, that's a huge commitment. I'm also fascinated by how big players like Amazon and Budweiser are getting power directly from large solar farms, especially in Alberta.
Exactly. They're locking in just energy prices for the long haul. And you know, this isn't just about being green. It's also a smart bit of financial planning.
And then there's the fascinating world of solar on the farm. It's like when you mix practicality with innovation, right?
Absolutely. Farmers who are, really down to earth with their approach see solar as a perfect match for saving costs. Take the massive solar farms on agricultural lands in Ontario and Alberta. Projects like Traverse Solar, with its 1.3 million panels, essentially powering hundreds of homes.
That's so cool. And then you have projects like the Sami Solar Project in Medicine Hat, aiming to eventually power an entire city. I mean, it's like the sun is the unsung hero of rural innovation, right?
Exactly. And it's not just the big farms either. Even smaller agricultural setups are using solar for irrigation systems, which is perfect because peak sun hours actually line up with peak watering needs.
That's a neat synergy. And what about solar energy in educational settings? I read that schools are also catching on.
Absolutely. Schools are using solar panels not only to cut down on bills, freeing funds for other important initiatives, but also as an educational tool. Take the Toronto District School Board, for example, with solar panels installed on hundreds of buildings, or Banff's Community High School that even integrates a 10 kilowatt system into science classes, letting students get hands-on with renewable energy concepts.
Right, and that's a smart way to educate while saving energy costs. Yeah, it's a double win, saving money and training the next generation on sustainable practices.
Now moving over to community power, these initiatives are just too essential to ignore. Community hubs like arenas, libraries, and civic centers are investing in solar too. For example, the Shediac Community Solar Farm in New Brunswick powers local community centers and even a government pension center.
And then there's Nelson, BC, with its community solar garden, a real grassroots step towards energy resilience.
Absolutely. It's about bringing clean energy to the heart of the community. And let's not forget towns like Raymond, Alberta, aiming to cover 100% of their municipal electricity use with solar energy.
Wow. It's clear that solar isn't confined to just one sector in Canada. Businesses, schools, even remote areas are all benefiting. Speaking of remote areas, what's interesting is how solar is transforming remote and Indigenous communities.
Oh, very much so. Down in places like Fort Chipewyan and Old Crow, solar projects are reducing reliance on diesel generators. The Fort Chipewyan Solar Project, for instance, supplies about 25% of the community's power. That's a major step towards energy independence.
Right on. And that kind of progress isn't just good for the environment, it's a huge win for energy security and cost savings, especially where diesel is both expensive and polluting.
Certainly, and it's all supported by a robust framework of federal and provincial incentives. The Federal Clean Technology Investment Tax Credit, Canada Greener Homes Grant, and numerous loans make it more affordable for both homeowners and businesses to switch to solar.
Absolutely, and those incentives really help overcome the high upfront costs. Now, if I may respectfully challenge a point, the high initial costs can still be a barrier, and sometimes the technical and policy complexities complicate things. How do you see that balancing out?
That's a valid point. Yes, the upfront cost remains a significant hurdle, but it's worth noting that falling equipment prices, coupled with strong government incentives, are steadily lowering that barrier. Plus, investments in storage technology and grid upgrades are starting to complement solar deployment, although more needs to be done to simplify connections and regulatory processes.
I see. It's a complex dance between technological advancement, policy support, and market forces. And speaking of advancements, the innovations in solar tech are really groundbreaking.
Absolutely. There's been a surge of research into things like PV shingles, solar windows that nearly turn buildings into power generators, and even solar asphalt collectors. And don't even get me started on bifacial panels that capture light from both sides, which is it's like doubling the
indeed.
efficiency, right?
And those advancements could make solar even more attractive, perhaps eventually meeting half of the home energy demand in Canada. That's a lot of untapped potential, especially when you consider all the sunlight that falls right on our roofs.
Exactly. And let's not forget that as we expand capacity, solar is poised to play a much larger role in reducing our fossil fuel dependence, bolstering energy security, and creating local jobs. The shift towards renewables like wind and solar is already evident in the numbers. Over 80% of new electricity capacity added in 2020 came from renewables.
Right. And pushing towards targets like 90% clean electricity by 2030 and 100% by 2035, Canada's ambitious goals depend a lot on scaling up renewables fast.
Yes, and while the progress is impressive, like 6,500 MW of installed solar capacity by 2022, the pace needs to quicken to meet those targets. It's essentially a race, one that also saves households an average of around 12% on energy spending by 2050.
That's a substantial long-term benefit. Exactly, but with all these advancements and the government support, do you think there's a risk of policy changes or market volatility derailing some of these projects?
That's a possibility. Policy shifts, sometimes sudden changes in incentives, or grid integration issues can create uncertainty. And there's also local pushback on large projects due to concerns about land use or aesthetics. However, the overall trend supports more stability, given the steady investments in clean tech and infrastructure.
Balancing innovation with local concerns is always tricky. It certainly is. And lastly, what's your take on the path forward for solar in Canada?
Well, it's clear that solar isn't just a passing fad. It's a cornerstone of Canada's energy strategy. From powering businesses and homes to transforming rural and remote areas, its applications are far-reaching. The key will be maintaining strong, stable government support, continuous research and innovation, and simplifying the procedures for project approvals and grid connections.
Yes, indeed. And that means all stakeholders, government, industry, researchers, and communities must work together. It's a team effort in building a resilient, cleaner energy future.
Absolutely, and if we can pull that off, the benefits are enormous. Lower energy costs, increased energy independence, and a healthier environment. It's really exciting times for solar energy in Canada.
Yeah, really exciting indeed. Thanks for this energetic discussion. It really sheds light on how solar power is reshaping the energy landscape across Canada.
Thank you too. It's been fantastic to explore all these angles with you today.
Until next time, let's keep our eyes on the horizon, both the literal and the metaphorical kind.